On another exciting episode of the Animation Deliberation Podcast, the beats of hatred are bellowing around the woods this week as we have another episode of Demon Slayer, Season 3, Episode 7, Awful Villain. Right after these ads, we have no control over.
Sing along if you know the words. A 1, 2, 3, it's time for Animation Deliberation! A conversation and a celebration of our favorite action animated series. Yeah!
Yeah, welcome back to another episode of Animation Deliberation, the podcast where we take action animation and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously. We are your hosts. I am Zuhair Ali.
My name's J. Scotty St. Clair.
And I am Andrew Rogers.
Our very own core is finally back together. How are you guys?
I'm good. It was tough not being here last week. But you held it down. You did the solo thing, so thank you for being here. I'm feeling much better and ready to talk some Demon Slayer.
Yes, I mean, how could I not be excited to be back? Thank you, Zuhair, for covering for us. It was a bit of a mental health break last week, for a lack of a better term for what's going on, but nothing could keep me from Demon Slayer, both last week and this week. I was keeping up with the episodes, like Sunday rolled around and I just heard just as soon as I woke up. It was just in my head ready to go, so nothing could stop me from just returning once more to the fold, because it was every week is intense now.
Yeah, just like Hentengu, all my personalities split up and all my emotions were all over the microphone. So it was a good time, but I'm glad to have you guys back.
It's nice to know someone's listening when it's in the moment. We forget all of you are out there sometimes.
Especially when I was like speculating, I was like, is this making sense? Is it not? Wait, I just proved myself wrong, but I have to say that to everybody. Wait, what's going on? It was 17 minutes of absolute chaos. But do you guys have any reactions to last week's episode or anything up until now before we talk about today? Or any spoiler-free of today?
I'll forego the spoiler-free talk. I just kind of want to get into it, but I'll defer to Andrew to give his thoughts on last week's episode, because I had the opportunity to give my thoughts when we addressed some feedback on last week's This Week in Animation news episode. So check that out.
I mean, I don't think I have anything specifically that I want to say. It was just so intense to see everything unfolding the way that it has so far this season, and the intrigue that they have continued to create and not acknowledge, largely around Genya, is just crazy to me. And it just, I guess it keeps me coming back for more, because every week I'm excited, but every time I'm just like, wow, Tanjiro is just the king ally that doesn't ask questions here. He's just like, yep, this is happening. Let's go. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun every week. But, man, I just want some answers.
Yep. And answers hopefully we should get, as we're 7 episodes in out of 11. So we're going to get to our synopsis. But before we do that, if you are at a point where you need a mental health break, or you are watching a great show like Demon Slayer and want a tasty beverage to go with it, blenders help make that happen. So we're going to talk about the BlendJet 2 blender. BlendJet 2 is portable, so you can blend up a smoothie at work, a protein shake at the gym, or even a margarita on the beach. It's small enough to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through tough ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house. Lasts for 15 plus blends, recharges quickly via USB-C. Best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend water with a drop of soap and you are good to go. Comes in some awesome colors. I actually had one of the listeners message me on Instagram the other day about how he got one and how much he's loving it, and he's waiting for the Animation Deliberation special. We do have a lot of reds and oranges, so maybe get one of those and maybe we'll make a decal or something so that you could just like stick on the side of it.
Yeah.
Now that's a great idea right there. And, you know, it's nice to stick on the side of something so that you can look at it every morning and just reflect on us, listen to us with your, you know, morning whatever, because I have been doing smoothies with a little bit of oatmeal in there. And I got to say, the fact that it doesn't just go through the powders that they give you, doesn't just go through milk, but can go through fruit, can go through oatmeal, it does a fantastic job in the morning when you want to put anything in this blender. Like, it's not quite will it blend, but maybe we'll bring it back.
So the oatmeal did work? I've been meaning to try it myself, but...
I mean, it turned it into like an oatmeal paste.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I know I teased that a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't actually tried it yet because I was out of town and didn't do groceries and didn't have milk to try it.
Yeah, it's so easy, you know. I hate to steal from Geico. I wanted to say like a caveman could do it, but that doesn't even seem fair. It's just like anybody could seriously operate this thing, and I kind of had a similar experience the other morning. I brought mine in, had my meal replacement smoothie, made it, did it in front of my roommate, and I was done within like the span of like between 3 and 5 minutes. That's including like making the shake, drinking it, and then cleaning it. And my roommate was kind of like, "That's it? Like you're done?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's it. It's super simple." And it's so easy, but it just got even easier and more convenient because now we have the orbiter lid to talk about, and it's leak proof. Your favorite ensemble is safe from spillage with this lid. It's got one hand convenience. You've got your hands full. Luckily, you only need a thumb to open this lid. It's got a large opening, perfect for thick smoothies. There's even room for a straw if that's the way you like to sip. It's self cleaning. Simply spin the lid and rinse, and it's engineered to keep spills at bay.
So we've spoken, our listeners have spoken, people are loving this thing. So what are you waiting for? Go to blendjet.com and grab yours today. And be sure to use the promo code STAYWHELM12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of the BlendJet 2. They'll guarantee you'll love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with the BlendJet 2 portable blender. Go to blendjet.com and use the code STAYWHELMED12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. Shop today and get the best deal ever. Sometimes overemphasis makes you forget numbers.
It's just your catchphrase. It's
It's like, wait a minute, I don't say it like that every day. Anyways, here is a synopsis for Season 3, Episode 7, Awful Villain.
Indeed. Tanjiro slashes Hantengu's neck but fails to cut through it due to his blade's diminishing flames. He is then confronted by the manifestation of Hantengu's hatred. So Hakuten, yes, whose blood demon art is giant wooden dragons. Genya realizes this demon is actually Sekiro, who absorbed Karaku, Urogi, and Aizetsu to fuse their strengths into one body. The demon shields Hantengo inside a burl and denounces the demon slayers as villains for causing him harm. Tanjiro retaliates against these accusations, angering the demon. Elsewhere, Gyoko enters Kanamari's shed to find him and Haganazuka, who is polishing Tanjiro's blade. That's not a euphemism. Despite sustaining several wounds, Haganazuka continues to ignore Gyoko, annoying him with his concentration.
The fact that he takes 3 days and 3 nights makes me really concerned if it was a euphemism.
Whew. Gotta take a deep breath in the middle of that one. Sorry for that, folks.
Focus breathing.
Focus breathing. Muichiro, close to death, suddenly has a vision of Tanjiro, who reassures him that despite his mistakes, someone will come and help. Kotetsu appears and fruitlessly tries to stab the pot. He is attacked by a small demon and sustains a stab to his solar plexus. Despite Muichiro's attempts to dissuade him from helping, Kotetsu blows bubbles into the pot, giving him the air to use one more attack and successfully break free. Muichiro realizes the reason Tanjiro seems to be familiar to him is because he shares the same eye color as his father.
Lots to talk about over here, but one thing that I really want to get to is when those wood dragons came out for the first time, I could not decide if I liked the animation or the music more, but everything seemed out together. Like, I know that dragon scene was really dope, but oh my god, was this just mesmerizing and beautiful. And the first Hokage in Naruto has used a lot of wood dragons before, so the bar was very high for it, and oh my god, was this just stunning for me.
Yeah, I mean, you stole it right out of my mouth. The music coming in just brought all sorts of just, for lack of a better word, symphony with everything that you saw on screen together. It just worked so well. And yeah, the dragons, I don't even know what else you can say besides just what are these things doing and what are they going to do to stop them? Because the fact they interacted so well with Tanjiro flying off of them and sticking his sword into them, I was just gushing about as hard as I am now.
Yeah, we've had some discourse throughout this season about like the use of computer generated elements, especially with like the fish demons and whether or not we liked it or not. But with these wooden dragons, I don't think there's really any room for argument. Obviously, everybody is entitled to their take, but this was just beautiful. I found myself thinking like I would love to see this on like a theater screen. Like I think this has kind of been the highlight of the animation this season. We did get that great sequence where Tanjiro made like the flame dragon in the figure eight. Like that was certainly a highlight. But in terms of like the camera movement in conjunction with the level of animation, like I think this is like on par with what we saw in the beginning of the season with like the Infinity Castle. And yeah, I everything you guys said, I'm was completely blown away by that sequence. I did think that that sequence was so the bar was set so high that I found the rest of the sequence focusing on Tanjiro's part of the battle a little lacking. I thought they effectively introduced this new villain, but this episode kind of did something that I found a little bit laughable. Like I kind of felt like it was doing what Dragon Ball Z did like back in its heyday where it became known for these like prolonged battle sequences with like people just reacting to the sheer power like of a new character where it's just like uh, this power it's so palpable like just
It's
shots
over
of
9,000.
yeah Tanjiro and Genya kind of going back and forth just like this this smell this power. I was like okay you could have cut down on that a little bit and it would have been just as effective for me.
Yeah.
But those are my really only gripes with the episode. I loved everything else in the episode, especially getting some movement with the Muichiro and Gyoko storyline.
Yeah, I think it may be one of those things that we don't acknowledge because we're not manga readers. But for instance, I saw something the other day that apparently, like, the part where Gyataro and Tengen are fighting right at the end of the entertainment district, that's like a 4-page fight scene. And
Mm-hmm.
we talk about it's one of the most beautiful things, and it was the entirety of that second to last episode, and they just stretched it. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a similar thing where they're like, all right, we know what we want to do with these last couple episodes. So let's just stretch the dragon introduction a little bit so that we can, get to that next step. But I'm not going to complain too much because it was still just like we joked last season they didn't have a budget. I think they've thrown the budget out the window this season. Like they're just coming in hot as can be. But yeah, I agree. When you go over to the other side, they had some intrigue because I don't know about either of you. I knew about this Haganazuka reveal, and I was just waiting for it to happen.
Mm.
Just how beautiful he is.
Yes, I had seen the pictures from the manga. It's like, oh, he's supposed to be like even prettier than any of the others that we've seen so far. Like, so
It's
yeah,
like all the beautiful people like know it, and they're just like, we can't share this with the world. We must bring ourselves down.
Yeah.
I
And
just
this
can't wait
kid's
for
got some.
Tanjiro to meet him.
Also, are there? I think this is the first time I've noticed this. Are there names on the back of their kimonos? Because I always wondered like how they recognize each other. They're just like really familiar with the minor details of each other. But when
The the swordsmiths.
yes,
So I've noticed, like as I've been watching, it always says, and I might be mispronouncing this, but I think it says Hyotoko, and I think that refers to the masks they wear. That kind of like derpy face, like where it looks like he's kind of like puckering his lips out and has a like sour expression. Like I
mm,
did some research a few weeks back. I was just curious about like what exactly is this mask and why do all these characters wear it? And apparently it's steeped in like I'm not going to remember all the details off the top of my head, but it's kind of like a recurring like kind of comedic figure from Japanese folklore, if I'm not mistaken.
that is you literally said the first line of Wikipedia.
And I don't have it up, I promise.
The origin of the name comes from fireman because the character is blowing fire with the bamboo pipe, which makes sense for swordsmiths.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
This is why at least one of us does our homework sometimes because that was very.
Sometimes.
No,
That's
that
like
was like super informative though.
another listener like sent me a video of this like the middle of this hotel in Japan, and it had a woman playing the sitar like instrument. I'm forgetting what they're called. And
Biwa.
sorry,
A biwa is the Japanese one.
biwa.
Yeah.
So she was playing the biwa, and it was
What'd you
like,
call
this
me?
looks like the
Sorry.
trying to keep it censored. We're in a mood today.
Yeah.
So they sent me the post of like somebody playing the biwa in the middle, and they had like these cool staircases. One is like, oh, it's like the scene out of Demon Slayer. It's like, yeah, it's crazy how all this stuff is influenced by stuff in their real world.
Yeah,
What a
right.
concept.
Yeah. And Zuhair, I don't know if the swordsmiths have something on their back, but I do know the actual demon slayers themselves have the large character on their back. I think
Destroy.
it's Destroy, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It's also hard to remember because Haganazuka has not worn a shirt this entire season, so I can't tell you if he has something written on his back.
It could have been Hyotoko, because I just remembered that when the vase demon came in, somebody was wearing something, so like the subtitles popped up of like the translation. So because I saw the H, maybe I just thought it was Haganazuka and it was something else. I'll look back on it, but yeah, everything about that scene was awesome. It's amazing how much focus and concentration that he had working on that. And we've seen that even from the first time that we've seen him, that Tanjiro was trying to like offer him tea or ask if he needs anything, and he's just like talking about the blade that he made for him. Like, he's so fixated. So seeing that level of focus and concentration to this extent, where he's getting beat up by the upper 5 demon and just
Correct.
totally locked in on what he's doing, absolutely amazing. So much more respect for this character.
I also really like Gyoko's motivation there in the fact that like he wasn't just evil. He wasn't just, I'm going to attack these humans to attack them. The fact that it was like from one artist to another, I've never been inspired as you. Like, you are doing something at another echelon. I need to take you down because I need to feel like this. I need to be superior. It was just so, I don't know why it worked for me, because it hasn't always been like this for the demons, but Gyoko's motivations just were through the roof awesome. And I hope and pray, just like with all of the other upper demons, we get his backstory, that he was some artist that was murdered by a demon or something. Like, I want that twist of how we got here and what it was that, you know, gave him the vase in the first place.
We've had jealousy of beauty, we've had jealousy of art, and we've had jealousy of fighting technique.
Yeah. No. Yeah, interesting insights there, but I'm 100% with you, Andrew. I continue just to be really fascinated with Gyoko, and I definitely want to know his backstory, especially after this episode. And I want to quote Jason Momoa's character from Fast X, like when he had that moment where he's like, it's not just enough to kill him, like I have to break his concentration. Jason's Momoa's character says, don't settle for death when suffering is owed. And I totally got that from Gyoko right now. He was just like, you're not paying attention to me. I want to be paid attention to. So you're not dying until that happens. But one other thing I've been meaning to point out about Gyoko is, listening to this in Japanese and reading the subtitles, I kind of love how his laugh is brought up in the subtitles. It's like HYOH, and it like kind of perfectly captures this laugh that he does, and just everything about him just kind of makes my skin crawl, and I love that. So I'm really looking forward to, like you said, getting his backstory, but also seeing him get his comeuppance.
Yeah,
I still can't stop focusing like on his mouth being on his side and his eyes coming. Like, I'm always like looking around, like, what am I supposed to focus on here? Because I'm trying to maintain eye contact, but I physically can't.
There was a great scene during this episode where they did like a hard zoom where they would normally zoom in on the character's eyes, and instead it's just the mouths that are like taking up most of the screen. And I was just like, I know what they're going for and it still works, but it's uncomfortable because you're just staring into the gaping mouths.
Yeah, but the mouths do a great job of still emoting. They're like making these snarls like when he's clearly like frowning or glaring, and it all just works. It should not work. It should like totally be uncanny valley, but it works.
It's like the imagination of the creators of this is just like troubling and admiring at the same time.
Who hurt you?
Honestly, the Who Hurt You is without a doubt Hantengu. Like the
Oh,
emotions and the
sure.
way that he's showing them, it's just like, oh, this is trauma. This is coming out in
What?
different weird ways.
What
Mm.
Monsters Inc. creature came out of your closet when you were a child?
The one with all the mouths and the eyes in different directions. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Backpedaling a little bit to the introduction of this new demon, hatred, I did find myself like immediately speculating, okay, we got Mitsuri reintroduced to Love Hashira a couple episodes back, and we haven't seen anything from her since. And it's just like love versus hatred. This definitely has to happen sometime soon, right?
Ooh, yeah. Honestly, I was just
I
wondering
didn't think
where
of
she
that.
is this whole time. Like, I know she's in the village, but I assume she would be like close enough to throw a stone and hit one of the other major demons, like not
Sure.
very far. Like, I think rather they didn't do a good job of setting up the scale at the start of the season when they're like, here's this village. I assumed everything was like in a tiny little quadrant where everyone
Mm-hmm.
would be really close by. But the fact that Mitsuri is fighting in the village against the fish demons, Tanjiro is in some housing place where he's fighting the emotions, and then
Mm-hmm.
way off in the distance, you have them at this shed fighting with Gyoko. I'm just like, oh, they're really far apart if none of them know what's going on with the others. So I
Mm-hmm.
hope she comes back, and I was half expecting her to be the one that saved Muichiro.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That was my expectation, but I like the love versus hate, and I hope they really lean into it, which this show would most likely do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like we've done it enough, so it's like might as well keep the trend going of the opening sequence where like you see the wood dragons coming in and she's kind of slicing and dicing. So I'm just like, I've
Oh,
been
sure.
waiting for it to happen,
Sure.
but I didn't even think about love versus hate. So I'm sure they have, and I'm very interested to see what kind of like dialogue comes out of that too.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I felt Tanjiro's rage before they even got to him when they were just like, "You're a villain! Like, how dare you like hurt small, weak, helpless people?" And this and that. I was like, "Excuse me," and he brought up the point. It's like, "Yeah, you've kind of killed 200 people already. Like, what the heck are you talking about?" Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really interesting, that dialogue as well, though, of like, well, were they your relatives? Did you know them? This idea of like, we need to have love for all. We need to care about all. Like, even if I didn't know them, that's still a problem. But this just monster not realizing, like, oh, but why should you care about them? I wouldn't care if you killed another demon. Like,
And I think that speaks to what makes, all of these demons that we've seen were humans at one point in time. So it's like that's what kind of makes them susceptible to becoming a demon in the first place, is like this lack of connection, this lack of empathy. Maybe it was, you know, some of the mistreatment they faced or discrimination or isolation that they endured, but it is like that lack of connection and lack of empathy for a total stranger that Tanjiro just embodies. And that's why he's kind of like the perfect foil to all of these demons. And even in their final moments, like he finds a way to have this compassion and empathy and relatability for them. So, I mean, that's just, that's what makes these villains so satisfying in the end, is that we are able to have like some measure of compassion for them despite their heinous crimes, like killing over how many people? 200 at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just the fact that he's not related to them, like why would he care? It's like you're so far off. You truly are a monster, and you were probably a monster before you actually became a monster.
which is
Yeah.
even more interesting that they took the time to note that this is a child, that hatred has taken
Sure,
the form
sure.
of a kid. Like, ooh, there's some extra deep cut there, that this child had to have something terrible happen to them that they decided, I'm going to hate everyone, and then most likely turn into a demon. Like, that's,
Mm.
ooh, yeah, feels like it's going to be a heavy couple of backstories, to say the least.
It'd be interesting if this demon's backstory was similar to Genya's in regard to losing multiple people and
Hmm.
maybe like not being able to grasp his emotions.
Yeah, I could see that.
I
Just
don't know.
Could be
all that.
something about they are the people that was lost, and like, but if I become a demon, I can bring them back. I can bring them together.
Yeah. Now I could kind of follow that trajectory that you were on there, Zuhair, like the repression, the like not being able to cope, like compartmentalizing these different emotions so that they become their own like entities. Like I think there's something there, but
Which superhero are we thinking of?
superhero.
Yeah,
I think I'm in the same boat.
that
Super.
one episode of Moon Knight
Yep, I'm
where we
just like
got his
it's Moon
Okay.
Knight.
backstory.
Okay.
Like that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm thinking some
Okay.
similarities between him and Huntengu.
I
I
was
was going.
wondering if there was going to be some DID
I
involved.
was I was going for Legion. That's why I was like
Mm.
superhero. I was thinking supervillain. But yeah.
No.
Acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of dialogue, but I'm ready for action again.
For sure. For
Those
sure.
drums are so cool. Like everything about that design. Like we love the wood dragons, but I thought that he was gonna have a short range weapon, but the way that he hit that, and this is the second time we've had like a drum demon before, so I'm liking
Hmm.
the consistency with that.
Yeah,
Yes,
I noticed that too. Yeah.
the drums just floating was like super cool. I don't believe they're connected. They're just in a halo behind him.
Yeah, and
It's
there's
like,
five of
whoa.
them.
And they all have the
Ooh.
same symbol. I'm assuming it's a symbol for hatred, but like I was expecting them at first to be like the different symbols of the emotions that he would hit, but I believe they're all the same like emotion that he's just radiating.
Oh,
Okay.
I want to look it up, but I don't want to be spoiled.
Yeah,
Tread
I'm
carefully.
sure there will be some explanation, and we wouldn't want to spoil that for anyone else.
I need to know.
Ah, jeez.
Yeah.
Key to
Well,
episode now.
speaking of like the singular character on the drums, I did kind of want to go back to Hagen Azuka again. I really appreciated like his dialogue where he was like, "Why would this person that poured all this work into the sword like not want to be recognized for that work?" And then he has that moment of realization where it's like, "No, this sword's purpose kind of transcends all else. It was created for a singular purpose," and I thought that was like poetic and kind of beautiful. I don't know what that character exactly is, but
Yeah.
yeah.
What if it
Yeah.
is destroyed? That'd be so cool.
Hmm.
Yes, I think that would transcend all of it. I'm curious who's going to get the sword though,
It's
because
Tanjiro's.
there's been a lot of focus about Muichiro having a chipped sword, and he's right there hanging out. So
But
I'm
remember, he
very
has a loaner because his wasn't ready yet. That's why they're going back to the shed to get the one that was made for him. But
uh,
Kotetsu has already said, like, I want you to have it because I want you to beat that jerk.
Right.
So they both have, well, one's being polished for Tanjiro, but from my understanding, Muichiro's sword is ready for him. He just hasn't been able to get it because either that particular smith was busy or he was the one that died at the beginning at the bath.
Yeah. And I can't believe I almost forgot this, but you know, this series involves a certain amount of suspension of disbelief. But when Kotetsu breathed the air bubble into the vase, like
Mm-hmm.
that is not how that works. We breathe out carbon dioxide, breathing in carbon
I knew that was going to
dioxide.
come up. I knew that was going to come up. I asked that question at a CPR course the last time
Okay.
I got certified. I was like,
Yeah.
why do we inhale into people if we're breathing out carbon dioxide? We naturally breathe it out, but when you actually have the intent of breathing out oxygen, you are breathing out the oxygen that you bring in.
Interesting. Okay.
So that actually was like valid because
Okay.
I was
All right.
curious about the two the last time I took that course.
Fair enough. I'll take it.
wow.
So
They are really
learned
staying true to
something new
life
today.
on us without knowing it. They knew people like us were going to have these questions, so they had to fact check themselves while writing the manga and just be like, all right, nerds, listen
I was
here.
ready for it. I was ready for it.
Mythbusters Animation Deliberation Edition.
Gosh, I'm trying to think how I would set up that experiment now.
Adam Savage, if you're listening, you're welcome on anytime.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I think that's everything that I've got. We didn't get any listener feedback, so I'll take this opportunity to, give a shout out to all the listeners. If you're watching along with this season and want to give us your thoughts, please do so at animationdeliberationpodcast@gmail.com. You can write us a written email there or record a voice recording, and we'll play it on the show. But I see that I'm jumping the gun here.
Got one more thing.
Go for it.
Last thing I wanted to say about Muichiro was I was really fascinated that he was seeing Tanjiro, because I forgot about the whole amnesia thing for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
And how he kept saying, it's like, you didn't say this, you didn't say this. So the fact that, like, he's remembering something relevant to what he needed, but seeing the person who can, like, provide that most compassionate, like, the text that he was hearing sounded like something Tanjiro would say.
Sure.
So I like that this is why what Tanjiro said was so impactful. It's not like he had a little epiphany or anything of like, oh, this dude's using talk no jutsu and getting through to me. It's a matter of like him actually connecting piece. Like he's gotten that spark now and he's seeing it more and more. And we've gotten the reveal that one of the reasons that Muichiro is so important and so talented is because he's a descendant of Sunbreather. So now we're getting more of like, is Tanjiro related to him somehow? Is there a connection somehow? Now we see that there's like physical similarities between him and his father. I'm very fascinated with the reveals that we're about to get from him.
Yeah, I think they at least got to be like cousins or something like that.
Yeah.
Because this show, Jay Scotty has complimented many a time the focus that they put on the eyes in this show is nothing if not flawless. But the one thing they always do is, especially if you look at like the Rengoku family, those eyes are the same amongst all of them. So I feel like that's some semblance of where that's going to go.
Yeah, I don't think I have any more that I can add to that. I agree. Cousins is where I was going, at least like, second cousins, maybe once removed or something like that. I always forget how exactly that works, the once removed and twice removed, but that's for another conversation and podcast.
Yeah, we could go deep in that rabbit hole because I'm trying to piece it back together in my head, and now is not the time.
Yeah.
But what it is
Anything
time
else?
for... Oh,
yeah.
I was going to say for all of our listeners to, write in just like you said, and or follow us on any of our social medias. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Animation Deliberation, or on Twitter at Animation Delib1.
Cool. Anything to let the people know about as far as upcoming appearances on other shows or other projects in the works?
Believe it's June 16th at 6:30. We'll be at a panel, or myself with the 323 with Reed Murphy podcast will be up at a panel at AwesomeCon in DC, and we will actually be engaging with the crowd. It's going to be a really crazy family feud. So if you want to argue with us and make me feel bad about myself on stage, that's going to be the place to do it.
You should all go shame him.
Yes, and Disney Plus may be purging all the content, but I am not. My content output is on overload right now. I am finishing up Barry's final season on Pandavision with Matthew Carroll. Bingers Assemble, we're just getting started with the Mission Impossible coverage. And then just found out today that in preparation for The Flash, I had been appearing on the DCEU coverage on Avengers Assemble, and we're actually going to go back and cover the Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman movies, and we're going to get the fellows from DC on screen for that one. So that one's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Very excited for that.
Me too. Yeah. So. All righty. Well, lots to look forward to. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in. That's TOONIN.
And as always, stay whelmed.
Until next week, muscle muscle.